Welcome to Paladin Financial Talk. I'm your host, Jeff Quick, and I am joined once again today by my co-host, Mr. Tony Shore. Tony,
Woohoo!
what's shaking?
Jeff, I am so excited to be here with you today. You cannot believe it. It's just the week. I mean, nothing's been going on. There's nothing happening in the news.
No.
Nothing's been going on. I've been bored,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. It's been a crazy week
It
with the
has.
election and the markets. There's so much to talk about, right?
It's been insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad it's over and
Sure.
we can kind of move on.
Yes.
It was fun. I was a watcher. I was up till
Yes.
2 a.m. watching
I was
the
up till
results.
1:30. You beat me. I only
Yeah.
made it to 1:30. I'm like, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. So
Yeah.
and I was flipping between the channels to get
That's
the
exactly
both
what I
groups.
did. I was on Fox, and then
Yeah.
I was on CNN, and for whatever reason, I was watching ABC News that
Yeah,
night. So
yeah.
I kind of was all three back
Yeah,
and
I was
forth.
all over the place.
Then I
Yeah.
had my phone out, trying to keep
I was
up.
mainly on CNN and Fox, and then I watched ABC for a while. They have some good coverage too.
It's interesting to watch when they focus in on the different counties
yes.
and how one county right next door to another votes completely opposite of that one.
Isn't it crazy?
It's wild.
Yeah. It is crazy how it's even divided by down to counties.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. And then the day after, I don't think anybody, including Trump and his team and the Republicans, saw a decisive victory like that. Everyone thought it would be close.
Yeah.
Nobody thought we'd know the next morning. They
Correct.
thought it's going to be close. There's going to be recounts. There's going to be lawsuits.
Yeah.
It will drag out for a couple of weeks at least. But no, boom,
Yeah.
it was decisive. And then the markets, they like, whether it's Democrat or Republican, they like it when it's decisive, apparently, because the markets really went crazy.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason the market shot up like it did, just the decisiveness. Either way, just a quick decision, I think, gives people a sense of relief, and we don't have to go through a week or more of recounts and voter fraud discussions and all that stuff. So It was nice to see that. And, whichever way you voted, your candidate won or lost, I think we all hope that we know it's Trump now next, right?
Right.
If you like him or not, I think we should all just hope for a successful 4 years for everybody.
Yes, for sure. I would agree with that. And, it is interesting to see what's going to be happening. I mean, especially now that the Republicans have full control of all three branches of government.
Yes.
Executive, legislative, and judicial. The good news is the Republicans won a decisive victory, and the bad news maybe is for them, we'll see, is they will own everything for probably the next 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be on, whatever happens in the next 4 years.
Yeah, hopefully they're allowed to make some changes, put their policies in place, not because necessarily I agree with all of them, but because that's the way it should work. They should be allowed to try things, get things done. And if they're unsuccessful, then somebody else is going to come in and hopefully do a better job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Agreed. And, it will be interesting to see, since it's been a while since one party has really had full control of all three branches.
I think we're waiting a little bit on final numbers, right?
Right.
Depending on
For the
how
House,
decisive it is,
Yeah.
Things may be more or less easily pushed through, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
Always is.
it will be interesting. So, and today we're talking a little bit about the election. We're talking about the economy.
Yeah.
That's what's happening in the news. And then some year-end deadlines.
Yeah, just to get that out there. Yeah, so I mean, you already mentioned the markets went crazy, right? They all responded positively overnight, very quickly because of the results. Dow all-time high was up over 1,500 points.
Yeah, the Dow, which has been sluggish,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's the biggest increase we've seen in the Dow in a long time.
Yeah, since November of 2022. That was the first time we had over 1,000-point increase in the Dow since November 2022.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, usually it's the S&P leading the way or the NASDAQ, but the Dow even did better than them.
It did. And you know what? Really, this year, value stocks have made a comeback, and the
That's
Dow
true.
has been doing a lot better than
That's
it has
true.
in the past
Yeah.
couple of years. So that was nice to see. You know, S&P also up, right? 2.5%.
Right.
NASDAQ went crazy, up nearly 3% to also a record
Wow.
high. US dollar, best day in 2 years. Treasury yields rose. A lot of good news out there for people that are in the market, and you know, probably for the general economy, at least initially. We'll see what happens moving forward.
Yeah. And now you're going to go into all of this in more detail. You've got a webinar that our listeners and viewers out there
Yes.
can watch and participate in. There's no charge. And when is that?
So that'll be next week, November 13th at 12
Okay.
o'clock Central Time.
Okay.
So I'd encourage everybody to register. It'll be the topics we're touching on today, but in a lot more detail.
So November 13th, what time?
12 o'clock.
12 noon.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's great. So, and they can pre-register for that.
Yes.
Where do they do that?
If you go to our website, paladinfinancial.com, under the education and webinar tab, I believe it's what it says. You'll see a registration link right there. You click on that and get yourself signed up.
Yep, that's paladinfinancial.com.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, you know, it seems like, at least according to the experts anyway, the economy was the number one issue, right? The price of goods, gas, right? Is that what they're talking about when they say the economy was the biggest issue?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. I mean, people talk about the economy all the time, right? Well,
right.
What is it?
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
as they say, it's the economy, stupid, right? That was a line we heard all
right.
the time.
Yeah.
Apparently it was true. So, I mean, essentially, Tony, it's a system by which goods and services are produced, distributed, and consumed in society, right? Individuals, businesses, governments, raw materials, all that stuff goes into making up the U.S. economy, and what we hear, you know, gross domestic product, GDP, all is involved in that economic conversation. So there's a lot of different areas.
Yeah, I think that's important. So then there would be different types of economies too. Then
right? Correct. There's really three. What we have here in the United States, we like to refer to as market economy, right? Market forces largely dictate production and prices.
Okay.
There are planned economies. Think of North Korea, right? The government controls all the production and distribution of goods. And a lot of countries these days are more of a blend, right, of market and government control. Those are most modern economies today.
Okay. So market economy, that's what we have.
Yes.
Yeah. And like a planned economy, that would be like in a dictatorship or communist country, right?
Correct.
And then mixed.
Yeah.
That's kind of a blend of both, and that's a lot of countries.
That's a lot of countries.
Yeah. Okay. So what are the components, though, of an economy in a little more detail so we can understand?
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit, right? Production is a big one, converting resources into goods and services. That, again, is GDP, measuring the output of those goods and services. And then, of course, you need somebody to consume those goods and services. So that's the consumption piece, whether it's individuals or businesses consuming goods and services. Could even come down to electricity, right? Natural resources as well. You know, the other component of that then it would be the distribution piece of it. How are you distributing those goods and services to the consumers?
Yeah, the supply chain.
Supply chain, exactly, which we've had a couple of issues with in recent years.
Just before and through COVID, the supply chain issues were a big one.
Yeah, and then we almost we had the offshoremen, right?
Yep, that's true.
We had a strike that didn't occur to the extent that we thought it might, and that could have been extremely costly.
That would have been bad. I'm glad they fixed that right away.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. You don't notice immediately. It takes a little time to have
catch
that impact
to the consumer.
Yep, and then it takes longer though to recover. It's a long recovery
Well, we saw
process.
that with the supply chain issues.
Yeah.
I mean, it took a while to trickle down to us. But then once the supply chain issue happened, like with vehicles, new vehicles.
Yeah, we remember that, right?
Yeah.
Used vehicles were worth more than new vehicles because you couldn't get new ones.
Yes.
And supply and demand, right?
Yeah, and a lot of car lots of huge dealerships were empty.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they had 4 or 5 cars on the lot
Yep.
and hardly any new ones, if any.
Yeah. Selling above sticker.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like way above
You
sticker.
forget about it. That
Crazy.
wasn't that long ago. But
Yeah, and houses where you'd have to offer way above asking
Yeah.
to even be in the running.
yeah, still a little bit of an issue in the housing market, right? There's still not enough supply out there for
Yeah, it
first-time home
hasn't quite
buyers.
come down, and the interest rates didn't help
Interest
either when
rates
they-
haven't helped. Yep.
Yeah.
We do have a Fed meeting today, now that you mentioned it. So expectations pre-election results were a 25 basis point rate reduction. Now we'll see if the election and what's taken place is going to impact their decision at all. So that should be coming out here anytime.
Yeah, we should know that any moment.
Yeah.
What the Fed decides.
Yep.
Yeah. So what's next? What's another part of the economy that we need to know about?
Yeah, money and trade, right? The exchange of goods and services.
Sure.
That's a big one. International trade, markets and prices, they go up and down. Again, a lot of supply and demand, resources, guiding producers and goods, really based on those consumer
Sure.
needs.
Yeah. And when you said money and trade, I mean, we saw the US dollar increase quite a bit yesterday.
Yes.
The value of the dollar went up.
Correct.
I hope that holds. So, okay. So what else? What's another part that we might not think about?
Well, the big one with the election, right, is just government and the economic policies. We have some currently in place. Which policies are going to be changed moving forward? We have a good idea on some, at least what they've said.
What
they
they've
plan to do, right?
we know what they've promised. Let's
Right.
see what can be delivered, right?
Yes.
And one of those big ones that affects, I guess, the economy is taxation. So that can affect our economic outlook. And right now we have historically low federal tax rate.
Yep.
Are they going to keep those in place when they expire the end of next year? And Trump said that they would, or at least alluded to that. So hopefully they will keep those in place, I guess.
I would expect the Trump tax cuts, right, from 2017
Yep.
to stay in place, made permanent for individuals. Corporate tax rates, I mean, he talked about a reduction from 21 to 18% and the impact that may have, which is always an interesting conversation, right? You reduce corporate tax rates. A lot of people say, well, all you're doing is putting more money in rich people's hands or business owners' hands,
The
these big corporations.
the CEO's pockets or the owner's pockets.
Correct. And, there's different theories on that.
There's
right?
arguments. I mean,
Yeah.
the trickle down, Reaganomics, where he believed if you gave the companies big tax breaks, it would trickle down to the people. Employees would get paid more. The cost of goods wouldn't rise as fast. And, with some companies that might be true. With a lot of companies, it might not. So it'll be interesting to see.
It's hard to say, right? If you think about it, they like to refer to greedy business owners. They're going to keep the additional tax money or the tax cuts and put it in their pockets. But if you think about it, Tony, if somebody's really greedy, right, and my business is doing well, and now I have more money, I would probably look to invest that in my company that I'm making so much money off of. And hopefully that's what happens. And they hire more people.
Right.
They increase wages.
Which will help the economy if that happens.
Yeah. Right. That's the argument.
Yep. There you go. So those sunsetting tax laws, that's going to be a big one.
Yep.
And corporate taxes, you mentioned that. We'll see what that happens. So, now, you mentioned before we go, you wanted to talk about year-end deadlines. What do you mean by year-end deadlines?
Yeah, so for our clients and anybody out there,
our listeners,
you're going to have year-end deadlines. The main two right now, where you're looking at year-end Roth conversions need to be done by year-end, and also those required minimum distributions or RMDs. So those all need to be executed by December 31st. However, we don't want to wait until December 30th, right, to try and get this done.
No, now would be the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for our clients, they can rest at ease knowing their Paladin financial advisor has this information. We know what they're required to have distributed by year end. We know most clients that are looking to do Roth conversions. So for us, the main deadline right now for these is December 13th. Again, don't wait till the last minute. Most of us are trying to get Roth conversions done here in November for those
Sure.
we know about.
Yep.
And RMDs will also be distributed. So you'll be getting a call from your advisor. Be prepared to make decisions on taxation of that. Do you want to pay the taxes on the conversion? Do you want to pay the taxes on the RMDs now and this year? How you're going to pay those, right? Have that stuff in mind. Work with your advisor to find the most tax efficient way to make this happen and get everything executed.
Exactly. And that's so important for our listeners out there and our viewers. Work with a financial professional, a trusted professional who is a fiduciary. And Jeff, I know you love to hear from our listeners and our viewers out there. So how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So best way, obviously, give us a call, 651-842-8406. You can find us on the old internet as well. The information superhighway, as we used to call it.
Oh, yeah.
Paladin
I haven't heard that one in a couple of days. Yeah.
Yes. And be sure and get on there. You can register via our website. Call your advisor. Register for our November 13th webinar at 12 o'clock. We're going to go into some more detail on these topics, additional year-end deadlines, as well as more detail on the economy, the election, and how that could specifically impact our clients in their specific financial situation.
Excellent. And as a reminder, that webinar is on Wednesday, November 13th at 12 noon. And Jeff Quick, will you be on that webinar?
I will. I am the host of the upcoming webinar.
Jeff Quick is hosting the webinar, so that's fortunate. You get to see Jeff and hear him really go into detail on these topics and specific things that you need to know. I think that's really important. What's the web address to register for that webinar? Once again, is paladinfinancial.com. And if you have any questions, look on Paladin Financial. There's contact forms there. You can call the Paladin office and ask for Jeff Quick.
Yes.
Jeff, great show today.
Thanks
Thanks
Tony.
for the
Thank
great
you.
information. Listeners and viewers, thanks for watching and tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Paladin Financial Talk with our host, Jeff Quick.